Well, good morning. And you're probably seeing me down in the left-hand corner of your screen and you're going, Cassidy, what's going on today? Because I don't see anything in front of me. I see you in the corner and I see a blank screen. It's not quite blank. It's just I'm hiding stuff. I am going to take you through my timelines today. I'm going to show you a little bit about how I actually go about setting up and timeline and how I use it, and you're actually going to get to see some old stuff. I've been practicing going through this a little bit today simply because there are things out here I don't want you to see, so I'm being very careful about what I'm showing you, and I should be able to stick to just what is out there. So I've always talked about how extensive my timelines get, so let's see exactly how extensive they get. Over here we have the global arc, and that's what we're in right now. Sorry about that. Let me have some mermaid coffee. So one of the things that I had to figure out was not only when the school started, but when the founders of the school were born. So I actually came out here and look right there. Way out here in the 1500s, so to speak, you see I have the timelines laid out for each of the 5 founders. And as we can see here, Astrid Blomqvist was the oldest. Or I should say she wasn't the oldest, but she was born first. And Lucille van der Kroft was a relative whippersnapper. In fact, if we do a little addition and subtraction here to figure things out, Austria was 50 years old when Lucille was born, so she had actually been around a while. And even Rhiannon, who actually ended up becoming the first headmistress, she had a few years on. She had actually 33 years on, 32 years actually on Lucille. She was the closest. So Lucille was just a little whippersnapper when she was born. One of the things that you can do with these guys is you'll notice when you're setting up people, you can set up beginning and end dates, or as they say, birth and death dates. So you can see for Austria, she was born on Thursday, 6 September, 1584, and she died Thursday, 16 July, 1716. We know this. We know now when all of the founders lived and died. So there they are. I've got it all laid out. I've got all this information. And we roll over here. Orange, by the way, constitutes a certain thing. It means this is a historical event. So these people are historical. And let's get over here and we start getting into, I'm going to roll this out. Spread it out just a little bit. I can do that. You'll notice down here, here is my entire timeline all laid out, and you will see orange are historical events, blue are personal events, green means something completely different. You'll see that when we get to it. But you can see I have a nice little timeline laid all the way out up to the 1900s. And here's the big one. Salem Institute of Greater Education and Learning, founded Sunday, 20 June, 1683. That was the first day of summer. And if you follow the timeline, you'll see that Austria was 89 years old when she helped found the school. She was 89 years old. She was creeping up to her 90th birthday. These witches, they were old. They had been around a while. And now you actually get to see, as I stretch this out a little bit, you actually get to see portions of things that happen. The Great Hall, this is when they started constructing it. And you see, using magic, it only took like 8 months to build the initial portion of it. The battles here, this is something that I know about that happens in history. Astria Portal, which we know was the northernmost portion of the first wall originally, and was the first astronomy tower was constructed. And then we see the pentagram walls went up 3 years after the Great Hall was built. So for the longest time you had the hall out there, and then you put the pentagram walls around it. And of course, they waited another 4 years before they actually started building the Coven Towers. And they didn't build the east and west transepts of the Great Hall until 1698, which is 13 years after the Great Hall was constructed. Now you're gonna see another timeline here. I can shrink, expand, and contract the timeline as I want just by holding down Control and rolling the mouse scroll wheel. And here's a certain character right here, Rennie Durvage. Who is Rennie? Well, we can actually expand these, and you see, if you notice, I've been rolling over and this little arrow pops up on the side, and if we click on that arrow, it gives us an expansion. This was the first person that was known to have the bigender gift. The person we know from France, who was also male to female, like Carrie, the only other one, and who died in the Italian Alps by jumping to their death. Oops. Let's hope that don't happen to Carrie. But we know Rennie had a short life. Born 1691, died 1717. He was not that old when he died. Just young whippersnapper. Now, you wonder, how do you get this information in? You come up here to this button here, the inspector, as you can see. Open that up, and this allows you to go through and set everything, set the events. So here we have the dates, and we know that the duration is Remy lived 9,582 days. A short life. This is where I put it in the notes. I could actually put tags in here, so if I wanted to look for something by tag, and I could just say bigender would be a tag that I could use to find these people whenever I wanted. Roles are we'll get into that a little bit, and links are nice too. I'll probably run into a couple that I could show you, but this is how I keep track of all this information. This is how, when I need to go back and look at history, I've got it. And right here we begin to see, as we know, or may have heard, Astria Bloomquist, she vanished from the school and died not long afterwards. We're seeing now the history of the school laid out. Instructor's residence build, construction of the first floor, the Great Hall, 1685, and they didn't build the first floor until 1726. So it had been around a while. Over 40 years, almost 41 years before they decided to add another floor to it. Then they built the headmistress's residence, Rhiannon. Here is another person who had the bigender gift. She was the first female to male who they know of. Now we see the school started getting bigger, and right there, like 26 years later, they built the second floor of the Great Hall. Selena's Meadow was named. Here was the first, as Deanna mentioned, here was the first time Memory's End was built. And then the construction of the clock tower, which is next to the Great Hall. Here were two of the other bigender people that we know about. Gwydion Manor was built, the construction of the third floor of the Great Hall, which was really the last big construction until we got into the library. So you can see when this is all happening. The Witch House built. Here was the new numerology building constructed based upon what Crazy Wanda said they had to do. So we know. And then the first observatory was built in 1811. Pequot's Grove was planted between 1814 and 1816. And now, one of the biggest events, 2 July 1845, the foundation bought the school. So now we know the 2nd of July is the holiday, you might say, of when the foundation took over the school. And at the time, they weren't the foundation; they were something else. They were still going by a different name, but we could see that. Now we know how old the foundation is. You know, they've been around for a while. Observatory 2 tower built. You can see we've got most of the school laid out. One of the things I don't have is I don't specify when the first walls were built and expanded. So I need to eventually add that in. I know about when they were done. And they were actually done around the time of right in here. They were actually done right in this area. Well, actually, no, they were done right around in this area here. So we know, or I know, about when they happened. And that was because people were starting to get nosy. We still are running into some of these people who had to buy gender gift. Katie Casprin, we know, because she was alive into the 20th century. She was the one who was also alive when this person popped up. She of the Diaries, Lucia. I'm not even going to bother with that name. And here's the first, kind of spoiler. We know that Katie came out first, accidentally, and then Lucinia came out by basically saying, hey, look, I have this gift too. So there you have it. And she's the one that's still alive. Katie died 5 years before Carrie was born. Now here you have something that's kind of spoilerific. You know that she's going to die in 2037. So after 2037, there's a very good likelihood that Carrie will be the only person alive in the world with the bigender gift. Assuming he's still alive. And here's where I have to kind of stop scrolling this way, because if I don't, there are two other timelines really quick that are just over here that happen to be Annie and Carrie's timelines, and I don't want you to see when they're going to die. That's what I actually have on there. I know the time of their birth and death, so it's also one of the reasons why I extended the age of the school out to the beginning of the 23rd century. Will the school still be around then? Probably. Will anyone we know be around then? Probably not. I also have another timeline where I show where pretty much everyone, their dates of birth and death. So I know when all of the characters who are basically on right now, when they live and die. So we're going to roll down here a little bit. And now I'm going to start to get into something over here. You'll see when I mouse over, you'll see it says global. And then I come down here and it says Annie's story, Carrie's story, and Annie and Carrie's story. And that should actually be Annie's and Carrie's story. And that's because these are set up in what I call arcs. And an arc is like a collection of different timelines, different events that happen to something particular. So in this case, Annie's story is all about Annie. So if I roll down here, we'll get right into her arc, and here she is, Annie's story. But you notice there's something different here. Here's global, and it's kind of like a grayish color, whereas this is all black. Well, there's a reason for that, because if I scroll over here, all of a sudden, hers turns grayish. Why? Born. I know when Annie was born, and we know her birthday is 27 September, and she was born in the year 1999, you know. So there you go. There's Annie's timeline, and you know she was born right then and there. And you also see clumped up here pretty much everything that happens to Annie prior to the first book, and then out through the first book up to when Annie calls out Lisa. Yeah, I'm gonna have to spread this out just a little bit. So as you can see, one of the first events we have with her is Annie meets Carrie in her dreams. And this was the tree dream. This was when she met Carrie and he read to her. And if we expand this, now we can see certain things that are happening here. We actually know how old Annie was at the time, because this will keep track based upon your start time. It'll keep track of how things went. And at the time, Annie was 8 years, 8 months. Carrie was 8 years and 1 month. And this says, as far as the arc is concerned, Annie's story is 8 years, 8 months long. Place would actually be California, and we can add that. We can actually add that. I can come over here to the inspector, and if I go to roles, I can come down here to place, and we have all these different places that are already added in, that I've added in for a lot of different areas. And if I wanted to, I could put the actual place, Sleepy Hollow, Sleepy Hollow, California, which is where Carrie was, lived when he was in California. Are you sure you want to add this entity? Yes, I am. Let's add this. And as you can see, it has now popped up there. Where did it happen? It happened in Sleepy Hollow, California. Really, I could also say, if I come back out here, I could add that it also happened in Pamparova, Bulgaria. Why? Because the kids were sleeping. This was all happening in dreams. So in reality, it was happening in both places, Sleepy Hollow, California, and Pamparova, Bulgaria. They were having their dream, and this was occurring. And of course, if we come down here, we can see that Annie wrote in her book. She writes down Carrie's name in her book. Took place in Pamparova, Bulgaria. So we can see all these different events, and these are all things. I can spread this out considerably. These are all things that happened, in the first couple of novels. We've already seen that. And if I come down here a little lower, we get to Carrie's story. It's the same thing. And we go all the way back here. We see, Carrie was a little baby. Look at that. Because I've spread this out now somewhat. And there's Carrie's first really big important thing. Carrie moves to Cardiff. And I should actually do this. I should actually copy this and move this down here as well. Of course, it's right there. And how I'll change this is I'll go into the inspector and I will say that it's actually in Carrie's story. And as you see, I kind of screwed that up because that wasn't when they met at the tree. I need to put that down. That was actually when they met in when he first moved to Cardiff. I made a mistake there. So how do I go in and change that? I just go in, I click on this, and I remove Sleepy Hollow, and I put in Cardiff, Wales. And I need to do the same thing for Annie's. Let's go back up here. Annie meets Carrie in her dreams. Remove that. Put in Cardiff, Wales. So I really have to also specify, and that may actually be somewhere else because I have more than one arc here for the kids. But here's the stuff, as you can see. This also goes into, as you can see, all the things that happens with Carrie. Carrie's birthday, Erwin comes calling, they speak. This was all in the second novel. And there we see the first of Carrie's girl's dreams, where Carrie sees a girl approaching him, one that he seems to know. Who is that girl? You have to remember, a lot of this stuff I put down a while ago. You know, I put this down a while ago. This has all been sitting out here for a few years now. It really has been. So we'll tighten this up just a bit. And we can roll down and we have another arc here. Annie and Carrie's story. And when I talked about the tree dream, here's where I screwed up. Spirit joining. Well, we already know about that. Carrie Malaby is 22 hours. I actually have to fix this because, let me fix this, because it was not 22 hours. It was more like 22 seconds. Yeah, it actually happened within about Carrie Malaby is 22 hours. The reason they put that, this is actually when it occurred. They're using this as Carrie was born at night. He was actually born around 10:36 was his time of birth. They spirit joined like a minute later. And so I would actually have to go into Carrie's, I would have to go in and change, actually make his personal time, which I can do. You can specify exactly when they start. So for like his birth, I would actually put 22:36 as the time he was born. When I showed that, this would actually then show that it occurred within a minute after he was born. But, you know, there you go. Annie's and Carrie's story. Spirit joining. We see Carrie was born and boom, right there. They joined up. Here was their first dream together. Let's fix this. This is where it actually occurred. If we want to go to the roles, places, Pamperovo, Bulgaria, and Sleepy Hollow, California. There you go. That was actually their first dream together. That was the first time they met each other. They were only 2 years old. They were little toddlers. Here is the one I keep talking about. You can see, I get kind of lost sometimes. It's been a while since I've been out here, so I put all this stuff in here. But you can see how powerful this is, in that you can actually, as you can see, they had other book readings. Look at that, you know. And then Carrie moved to Cardiff. Here's the bike ride and name telling. Annie finds out Carrie is real. Carrie finds out Annie is real. This stuff all happened. I know it. There's very little discussion in the book about any of this happening. But here I have it all laid out. This is really the biggest arc right here of how they actually came together and how they developed before they ever met at school. This is it right here. I've got it all laid out. Annie falls in love with Carrie. That was on her birthday. She falls in love with him. The first time she admits to herself that she loves him. She was 7 years old. She actually told Erwin she was like 6.5, but she was actually 7 years old. Because I'll have to change that. That's one of those things when I go and edit the A-level novel, I can actually change that a little bit and say that she felt herself starting to fall in love with him. But, you know, on her birthday, when she was 7, she finally admitted she loves Carrie. 7-year-old girl, can you imagine that? She was probably laying on her bed, just like, oh, I love him. So sweet. And they had other book readings. I don't remember if I specify what they read. Probably not. I should specify down here. There are no observers, but I could actually put here in the notes. I could come out here and bring this up. First time reading under the tree. A fall of moon dust. Boom, right there. Gets added in. And one of the other things you can do is you can actually add photos. There's one I should be able to show you where we can actually add a photo. But yeah, here you find out the whole thing. Annie almost died there. Annie has her lake house dream. Annie's lake house is built. Papa, I want you to build me a lake house. Yes, Papa, I want you to build me lake house. You will build me lake house, yeah? Carrie tells Annie he loves her. This was the first time. And he was lucky. You know, like Deanna said, you're lucky. You had somebody fall in love with you twice. The same person. They fell in love with you twice. And then finally, on her birthday, boom, when she turned 10, she told Carrie, I am a witch. Which Carrie didn't quite believe. There was a whole lot, if you think about it, there was a whole lot of, like, Carrie had really no idea what was going on. A lot of his ideas about Annie changed as we went along through, you know, the story, because he knew all this stuff. He didn't know he was a witch. Could you imagine if he had remembered he was a witch? The sort of reaction he would have had when the Foundation came to get him, oh my God, he would have lost his shit. He really would have. And here we see, this is the most important dream, where their last dream for 10 months. This was where Carrie completely lost it just after his 11th birthday and blocked out everything he knew about Annie. And then, of course, Annie learns Carrie's going to Salem. Annie meets Carrie for the first time. Yay! And I could go in here and say, where did that happen? Why, of course, that happened in London, England, right there. And if I have a picture of the bookstore, I can actually put that in there. And actually, I think I do have a picture of the bookstore. So let me show you how I can do that. Go in here and go to the links. And I can set up a link. I can browse for the file. And I believe if I have that file, it's actually going to be in my blog pictures. So let me look under bookstore. Yes, I have a folder for my blog pictures. And right here, C for Continuing, Daunt Books, which is actually where they met. So, boom, put that in there. C for Continuing, Daunt Books. And you can see now when I expand this, it shows, happens in a London bookstore. This is how old they were. There were no other observers. We haven't gotten into observers yet. And it happened in London, England, and there's the bookstore. Darn it. And if I click on it, it's actually going to come up. It should. And there it is. Now we know where they met. See, it came up in the pictures. So there, you know, this is the sort of stuff that I actually lay out. And a lot of people are like, you're probably thinking, wow, this is insane. This is actually kind of insane. This is when they wandered, allowed to go out on their own because the foundation wanted it. And I could actually enter a thing where it states that they had lunch. There would be the first place I could actually have observers. And most importantly, here is their A-level year. Around the ground. Notice, yes, I have all this crazy information laid out. I really do. I just lay everything out. So there's their first year. And if I come down here, I can actually get into school events. Stuff that happened at the school. And here we see, this is their flight. And I can expand upon this. I can actually set this up. It's an ARC, it's a school place. But I can actually set this up going into here. And if I go to roles, who are the participants? Well, the participants, of course, are Annie Karolova and Carrie Malaby. And the place was Amsterdam is one, and I don't remember if I've got Boston in here or not. But I could just say, you know, actually I could just Boston, for now I'm just going to put MA because I can't spell Massachusetts. And I didn't do that right. Yeah, I didn't spell, I don't know how to spell Massachusetts, so I'm not going to spell. And do I want to create it? I can take this out later, or I can actually change it. So I can change it to say Boston, Massachusetts. But now observers. Who are observers? Well, they're people that are actually watching this stuff happen. And who were some of those people? Well, technically speaking, Helena Lovecraft, Deanna Arrakis, Erwin Sladen, Madeleine Laventurier. I don't believe I've got Adric's name down here. But if I had Adric, I could add him in there as well. Those are the observers. Those are the people that actually saw this happening. And as you can see, we have ages for them. And now we know how old these people were. Annie and Carrie, of course, we know they were 11. Annie was creeping up on her birthday at that point. But Helena was 43 years old. Erwin was 43. She's the oldest. Erwin is actually Erwin and Jessica are actually like the oldest instructors at the school, both in their late 40s. Helena would be right there with them. Deanna is 26. Matilde is 38 years old. She's the headmistress of the school, which, if you go back, she became headmistress in 2001. And this is 2011. So Matilde was 28 years old when she took over. She was actually teaching at another school when she was asked to come and become headmistress. So at 28, she took over control of the school. There you go. Because she was an excellent administrator. So there's how you lay all this stuff out. And we can get into something that's a little different. We have an arrival at Salem. We have the student orientation. Getting to meet the new instructors. But here's something. This was what we call the first week in school. And if you notice, there's a little plus sign here. And this just tells you, where did it happen? Salem Institute of Greater Education and Learning, and it is 328 years, 2 months old at this point. And I could actually put all the instructors in here as observers because they were. But this is expandable. You see this little plus sign? I actually have nested events that happen within that. So if I click on that plus sign, you see, I'll stretch this out just a little bit, and there you go. First week of school, and you see when all the classes happened. I don't have all the levels laid out there, and I can. That's one of the things I can go into. But this was week 1 that was a complete, I don't remember if it was a chapter or if it was a part. I think it was a part, and then there were a couple of different chapters. But as you can see, the whole first week of school was laid out for the kids. So this is how I had it all done. It started right up here, A-level history, 5 September 2011, A-level algebra. If you notice, I've left off I actually left off A-level flight. Oh, how could I forget that? So why don't we put A-level flight out there, and I can show you how it's actually done. And let me go back here and bring up Schrödinger, because I have all my schedules laid out. And I can come down here and I can look at attendance, and I can actually look at the A-level schedule that I have. And right here, this is the A-level schedule. Flight school occurred between 13 and 16 hours. So I can go in here to my timeline. I'm surprised I actually forgot how to do this. So let's put this in here, and I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to add an event. Just add it up right there. There you go. And we will make this blue, so it is a school event. And we will call this A level basic flight, which is, as you can see, it's flight school, but it's A-level basic flight. Now here I'm going to specify that it does have a parent, and that parent is here, right there. It's number 82. So if I type that in, it's the first week of school. That will lock it into this little block here. And when did it occur? 09. I can actually do it this way. I can do it the easiest way. Let's bring up the calendar. It occurred September 5. Got it set at 13 hours. Wow. It knew I was coming. And I can come down here and say it lasted until 16 hours. Boom. Now I know it's 3 hours long. And if I want to, I could add the participants, I could add the place, but we'll just add the event. And right there, it gets added in. There you go. That's how you go about modifying your timeline. How to modify your timeline. Just like that. Get it all modified. So that's the first week of school. That's all laid out. And down below here are book events. And let me minimize this. I'm trying to hide things in case you didn't realize it. And these green lines here indicate book events. And what do I mean by book events? Book events are I actually know when the books occur. So I have it laid out, as you can see here, Foundation Chronicles A for Advanced. This is when all of the events of the school occur. Bringing everything together. I'm tightening it up a little bit. And there you go. I've tightened it up considerably. And you can see that I now know when the events of each novel occur. And I see right here above, I have all these different events that happened. These are at the school. And these are some of the things that happened in the B-level novel. Racing season, if I roll up here to Annie and Carrie's story, there's the B-level year and a lot of the events that happened to them both. Roll up here to Carrie's story, and here's all the stuff that's happened to Carrie. Same thing with all the things that have happened to Annie, just happened to her. And then we finally get over here into the C-level stuff, and I don't want to go any further over simply because we start getting into events that haven't actually occurred yet. But we have our school performances there. We have our school events. We see where things happen. And we get down here. Whoops, don't want to do that. And we see we have the layouts. This is when the first book occurs. This is when the second book occurs. This is when the third book occurs. The events that are going to see it. And you see that, now you know, the events of Foundation Chronicles C for Continuing go right up to Saturday, 31 May 2014. And that is when Carrie and Annie both get home. Yay. They both arrive home that day. So, as you notice here, also one of the things I did was the first book, the second book, and the third book basically pick up right after each other. There's no time space. That's because the second scene actually is a flashback to Miss Rutherford recounting to Annie what happened with Carrie. So there you go. You're seeing all this stuff. This is how I lay out my timelines. This is how I do stuff. It's very helpful if you're dealing with a series, especially, where you have to keep track of this information. And I can't tell you how many times I've actually went back and looked at stuff. Like, one of the things I keep track of is race seasons. You know, I know exactly when racing starts and ends every year because I've got this plotted out all through to their F levels. So I know when the Mount Katahdin race starts. I know when the Polar Express starts. This is the Polar Express during the B levels when Penny and Alex went on the Polar Express. And even though we never even talked about it in the first novel, except you heard of it, I also have laid out when the Polar Express happened and the Katahdin race happened during their first year, even though racing was hardly discussed. So, and really if I wanted to, I could, you know, see, I had a map there and it got busted, so I have to find a new map. Yeah, I actually had a map there for the Katahdin race and it got busted, so I need to put a new map in there. But this is how I use them. This has become rather invaluable for me in terms of what I can do with it. And I've actually went back, and as you begin to think about what you're doing, you'll change the timeline a little bit. I've already done that more than a few times. But one of the things I had to do, let me see, just run up here real quick, boom, run up to school events. And one of the things that I had to track is right here, Ramadan. Why did I have to track Ramadan? Well, if you remember, Annie has lunch in the Sea Level novel with Deanna. And when I originally set that up, I said that they would meet on the 7th of August. It would be a Wednesday. It was the middle of the week and they'd meet. Except for one thing. Then I decided, wait a minute, you know, Deanna's Muslim. When's Ramadan in 2013? Which is when they had lunch. And gee, guess what? It ends at nightfall on Wednesday the 7th, that Wednesday. Which means if they had had the lunch on the 7th, Deanna couldn't have eaten. She would have been fasting. So that would be something that Annie would have checked. She would have like, I should see if the Ramadan is on. And she even made the statement that she picked the place because it had halal food. They had it the next day because she knew when she made the reservations when Ramadan ended so that she could actually invite Deanna, you know, for lunch. Or actually Deanna said she wanted to get together and probably said something. So I'm actually tracking Ramadan because now not only Annie, but now in the Sea Level novel I've introduced Sharoshi from Iran, and she's Muslim. So the chances are good that, you know, there could be a possibility at some point in the future she's going to be practicing, she'll be participating in Ramadan while they're in school. And that actually does occur. Like, I think when they graduated, actually, Ramadan actually pops up at the end of the school year. So for some purposes, you know, she can't participate in like the graduation. She may not be able to participate in the actual graduation feast. And because of that, they may hold it at different times, you know, to allow her to be able to eat with them. So I had to keep track of that. I keep track of all the holidays, as you can see, Samhain and Imbolc, Beltane, all of that stuff. So I know when it happens. And the reason I have this blue there, Ostara, is because that's a book event. That's what this color here means. It's a book event. And due to it being a book event, that's why I have it colored differently. You know, I should have Samhain colored differently too. And that's easy enough to do because I could just go in here, and instead of calling it a school holiday, I could just come down and say books. Boom. Change the color. There. It's all changed. That's it. You got to see my timelines. You got to see how they work. A little of how I use them. They don't have to be written in stone. You can actually modify these as you see fit. And even as you're writing, like I said, I've come up with stuff that I've been writing, and then I realize I need to go back and change that. Maybe the timeline doesn't work exactly the way I should let it work for me. So, you know, you use this however you feel like using it. That's the idea. But for those of us who write series, or even if you write, like, especially a big fantasy novel or a murder mystery or something like that, where you need to keep track of cause and effect, or when events happen, when special things occur, they don't even have to happen right away. You can talk about them years later, or hours later, or days later, however you see fit. This is a great program. It works for both Windows and the Mac. On the Mac, it actually integrates directly into Schrödinger. So, you know, there's that nice little connection going on too. But like I said, I believe it's $60. And if you win NaNoWriMo, it's 40% off. So that's like $25 off. Same thing with, you get a 50%, it used to be a 50% coupon. I haven't done NaNoWriMo in a while, so I don't remember. But you can get discounts on Schrödinger as well. I think for camp it's 20% off, and it used to be for NaNoWriMo you actually get 50% off. I don't know if that's true anymore. But if you're willing to invest the time and the money, this is the package to use. It really is. It's a great package. So that is my video for today. It's instructional, it's helpful, and it's allowing you to see everything that I do, that I get crazy with. Yeah. This has been, believe it or not, like I said, this has been a big part of my life, because I began laying out the first timelines back in 2013, before I started writing the novels. So there you go. You know, it's huge. It's a big deal. The one thing I have to go back and check, and I'm going to run this all the way back here, and I will go down to school events, and I want to see, I don't see it. I was going to say, do I have the scouring in here? And I don't believe I do. No, I don't have the scouring down here as a school event. Shame on me. Well, actually, I'm still in 2000, so I have to roll this back. But no, it'd fall right in here someplace, and I don't have it. So shame on me. I should have the scouring in here. I should have the scouring in here. The fact that I don't. And you may have noticed that there's actually a couple of arcs down here. Those are special arcs that only I can see. Like I said, I'm trying not to spoil certain things. So, you know, trying not to spoil certain things. And do not be dismayed that Annie's arc doesn't appear as big as Carrie's arc. Carrie does have a lot more shit happen to him, but Annie's going to have her fair share. She's got her fair share of stuff that happens as well. It's interesting. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this, and tell me what you think. Jump on there, leave a comment. Take care. Bye.